Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. I don't know where that bell came from, but yeah, it's raining in Buffalo, and that just seems like Buffalo is the East Coast version of Seattle.
It really is. You get rain all
It's
the
ridiculous.
time.
We've had 3 massive thunderstorms in the last 72 hours. It's like,
We're going to finally get a little rain tomorrow. We've had sunny skies days and days.
All that talk of drought, bull crap. We're getting
there is in the world, trust me.
Well, not here. We've got plenty of water. We'll give it away. Okay. Anyway, Russ, start us off the pre-show.
So today is Roberto Clemente Day, and this is one of my favorite baseball cards of him from my childhood, even though it's beat up and just looks like a mess. But
does it say Bob Clemente on it?
It does say Bob, which is kind of what Major League Baseball used to do with Puerto Rican players and other Latin players. Instead of using their regular names, they tried to Americanize them. But when he passed, I really bothered my father to get to the Hall of Fame because I'd seen him play live. I'd seen him get his 3,000 hit on TV against the Mets and against John Matlack of all pitchers too, really good pitcher. And I really wanted to go to a Hall of Fame because I had heard that they were going to have like a wax statue of him and his uniform. So I did that. And that was a really great memory. I was about 10 years old at the time. Now, players of Puerto Rican descent will be wearing his jersey today. So like the Mets have 3. They have Edwin Diaz, Javi Baez, and Francisco Lindor will all wear the number 21. And Kev, this is a long time coming. I mean, he's always been one of the greats.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, it's almost a cliche sometimes when they say that he's an athlete's a better person than he was an athlete. But, Roberto Clemente actually was. I mean, he was on a humanitarian mission when his plane went down. Although, I have one funny memory of him. I was a swing guy when I was a kid. I paid attention to swings. I thought it was kind of cool. And Roberto had, for such an incredible ball player, and he was incredible, 5'2" player, had a real awkward swing. If you look at his clips and everything, it looks like, his feet weren't settled. He was kind of moving around in the box a little bit. And, unlike the other guys that, kind of dug in like they were, posting up, he was just he had kind of happy feet. They were sort of moving around. So, that's what I remember about him as a kid. And we didn't see much National League. So my views of him were very limited. Whatever was happening outside the American League, and in particular what was happening in New York, was simply a rumor to us in Detroit.
Right. I did put up his throw from the 71 World Series. Sorry, Mike. It's up on my Twitter feed. And it's unbelievable. Like he gets a ball in the corner and he hits home plate on a fly. Yeah. I mean,
it's like that Parker throw in the All-Star game in Seattle. No, and Kev, you probably the most you saw of him was in All-Star games because that's what it basically was. I have to bring this up because I watched one of the 2 episodes in Russ. I don't know if you got a chance to see it.
I haven't watched it yet.
Okay.
All right, but we haven't watched it yet.
Well, okay, so I won't. I mean, obviously, I won't give anything away.
You can say if it's good or bad.
I thought it was good, but the what I'm talking about is the 30 for 30 on ESPN on the Mets of the '80s, and it's good when it brings back the feelings that you had in the '80s, which for me was visceral hatred of that team. And they were,
which is no shock.
No, my 2 favorite teams, one in the American League is the Yankees, the other is the Cardinals in the National League, and those teams hated each other with a passion.
Yeah, but that year you were probably dealing with Ricky Henderson and his micro tears and his hamstring.
I don't even remember 86.
86, 87. He was there somewhere around that time.
But this is the thing. This is the thing. And this is the theme of this series. The what if of a great team. I mean, a team that I can only compare in hockey, and I'm just talking about talent level, to the Tampa Bay Lightning of the last couple years with Hernandez and Carter and Strawberry and Gooden and all the pitching staff and all. They had a team that should have probably won 3 or 4 World Series, and they won won, and they were lucky to win that one against the Red Sox. I mean, they were the better of the two teams, but they were lucky to win it. And the other parts of this series will show the reason why they didn't win, which was drug abuse, and the team just simply didn't get along. There were 2 or 3 different factions on the team. So really, it's a cautionary tale of a team that had a ton of talent and really didn't live up to the expectations that they should have.
Yeah, they're the only team in history that it started to go downhill for them when they had their parade. And I won't give away why, but literally the day of their parade, bad things started to happen. It still doesn't mean they weren't a good team. They won a lot of games. And in 88, if it weren't for Mike Scioscia, they would have gone to, the World Series again. But that's the way it goes. And
one little story here that I thought it wasn't part of the 30 for 30, but I thought it was a fantastic story that Jeremy Schaap told on, I think it's E60, which is the ESPN sports magazine program. He was talking about a man, I think his name was Barry Rosen, who was a Mets fan, been going to Mets games for the last 40 years on a lifetime pass that was given to him by Bud Selig or by Major League Baseball. I don't know if Selig wasn't commissioner in 81, so I don't know if it was either Uberoth or
I think it was Uberoth at that time.
or Bowie Kuhn. But he was one of the 52 hostages that got released from the U.S. Embassy in Iran, and Major League Baseball gave them a lifetime pass.
That's cool.
It's made out of brass.
Wow,
so that's really cool.
So all he does is show it at the gate at Citi Field.
That's awesome.
And he's been doing it for 40 years. And
I love that.
Honestly, I think that was obviously back then it was great to do that. And he's gone to Mets games for 40 years on that pass. And I thought that was fantastic.
Where do they put him? They have a seat for those kind of?
They didn't go into.
They probably just give him an available ticket. That's what.
Yeah. That makes sense. Just in terms of the pre-show here, I got a baseball game on. The Tigers are playing an afternoon game against the Brewers, coming on the heels of a last night 11-inning delayed by an hour and 49-minute rain delay last night. And I love afternoon baseball, and I always say we should kind of go back to that. When I was a kid, there were a lot more games like that. But, no one ever comes to those games. There's about 16 people in the stands.
Yeah, there's no way that's true. I mean,
and people do watch at home, Kev. Like, I remember early in the season, I was at your house and you were watching the game. And if there's a day game on, I definitely watch it. But I think
I watch way more baseball during the day.
Yeah, I think people don't go. You're right about that.
I always put it on because, and I got a real quick funny story about the Mets '86 thing because a good friend of mine is a musician, and he's not one of, and like many of my musician friends, they call it like the sports ball. They have no idea what sports are. They don't pay attention to sports.
Right.
And so anyway, he was with his girlfriend, the same age I was, like in '86, which would have been 18. He was visiting his girlfriend who, now this guy lived in Alaska, met this girl in college, and the two of them were in New York City for the first time ever. And that night that the Mets won the World Series. And he's in there and he doesn't know that that's even going on. And he's walking through Times Square and, he's like, I always thought Times Square would be more crowded. Of course, everybody was inside a bar or inside someplace watching the game, right? He's like, I always thought Times Square would be a lot more crowded. Well, he's in Times Square when the game ends. Okay. And at the point the game ends and then people come rushing out of the bars at the two of them, and they're like from Alaska, and he's like, it was like the most scariest, most nightmarish Alaskan moment you could possibly have, of like, suddenly you're being, and he had no idea like what's going on. Why is everybody do this running? This is just won the World Series.
Well, I think the most hilarious story of that is the one that Bob Costas told, because he was in the locker room of the Red Sox, and Mrs. Yawkey, the owner of the Red Sox, was in the locker room. And remember, this would have been the first World Series victory for the Red Sox since 1918, and they had the champagne and everything draped with plastic. And as soon as Mookie Wilson hit the ball and it goes past Buckner, there was a crowd of support staff that took everybody. They took Mrs. Yawkey, took the champagne, took everything out so that they didn't come into the locker room with the appearance of what was to be for a celebration.
It was too late. They lit up the Hancock building. But I do want to say this about New York as a baseball city, Eck. it's almost impossible to not know, even to this day, that baseball is going on in New York, because you can literally just ask someone on the street, hey, what's the score of the Met game or what's the score of the Yankee game? And you'll get the answer, the correct answer, more than 50% of the time, probably like 75% of the time still.
Yeah. No, it's a great baseball town. All right, let's get going here. The date is the 15th, right?
Yes.
Just wing it.
I've been doing really good.
Yes. He got it wrong yesterday.
He got the date right. He got the day wrong.
Day wrong yesterday because I didn't do the show Monday.
You can't blame it on COVID anymore. So
no, Gavin was just with many excuses I can blame it on. So I'll take that one off the list. It's fine.
Yeah.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, May 15th.
May?
2000.
May?
Oh God.
That was Steven. You're not even in the ballpark yet.
It's spring again.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That was.
I give up. I want to do the.
What you know? What I really think you should give up. Like, why do we need to know the date?
It's just part of the thing. Like Kevin, there are people who bother me, who send me texts and emails if I say the election the same exact. People there's a rhythm for some reason to the podcast thing that like they wanted me to say it the same exact way every time.
There should be a FanDuel bet, like whether you're going to get it right or not. There should be odds.
Yeah, for sure.
So good, today was so good until yesterday. All right, here we go. It's God.
September.
It's September morning.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, September 15th, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello, and I hate rain.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Kevin Allen, Hockey Buzz.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and the goings in the hockey world. And we are going to get into Team Finland today. Which is a really interesting. I do want to get some of Kevin's takes on Team Russia as well if we can. Just got a text. I'm gonna have to leave the show at 1:45. But so maybe we could start with Finland, guys. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Well, there's one story that we should bring up before we get into.
Yeah,
Finland.
Start with that first. You got it.
Because it's rather surprising. There was discussion regarding Stan Bowman's place as part of the hierarchy for the U.S. Olympic team, based on his connection to the Blackhawks and the ongoing investigation of the allegations back in 2010. It was released about an hour ago. The U.S. Olympic Committee has rejected an American think tank's request to suspend Bowman while he faces allegations that he helped cover up the sexual abuse of two Blackhawks players. Now, Kevin, I want to get your point of view on this, but the only thing I can draw from this, right now, it hasn't been adjudicated, so they're not going to make a decision on it. But also, if the suspicion is out there that Bowman had informed ownership of this situation back in 2010, and it was ownership's decision not to reveal it or to cover it up, then really all he was doing is following orders. And then maybe he's not to blame, but that is extenuating circumstances.
Well, it is, although historically the following orders defense has not worked, as we all know. So it's interesting. If you believe it's a criminal act, are you not morally obligated to call the police?
Right.
But I know exactly what you're saying, that you're working for a team, it's their team, you serve at their pleasure. It's a little more complicated than that. But I think the argument for people who think that he's should be held accountable is that just as I said, that if you know of something that's going on, you should report it. To be honest with you, I was surprised it took this long for them to be an outcry. I thought when he was named, we were going to hear that. And, it's such an issue because in the olden days, it was a clear thing. You just said, well, innocent until proven guilty. As you said, we haven't adjudicated yet. We haven't decided. We haven't passed blame on whether or not, as you said, that it passed up to ownership or it went to team president McDonough or, any of that. We don't know all the particulars on it. Although, it's interesting that USA Hockey didn't even blink about putting him in there. It makes you wonder if they, don't you think they at least ask him to explain that to them before he was hired?
Right? But you just don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know. But
it's just weird, and they, I don't know.
So I
would think they would have.
I would have think they would have tuned, and they must have been satisfied with his answer. That's my guess.
Or could he have said, "Well, I'd like to explain it, but because it's under adjudication, I can't."
But would they have continued with that answer though?
Right.
I don't know. I will say none of this looks good.
No.
And you wonder. We have reached the point in our society now where companies, and we'll view USA Hockey as a company right now because it's a multi-million-dollar organization. They generally shy away from controversy. And they had to know this was happening. So, yeah, I'm not surprised this is happening. If the U.S. Olympic Committee, because look at all their problems recently. Go to the Larry Nassar situation, like they don't want to draw attention to themselves for the situations like this either. So that says to me they must have said to USA Hockey, well, explain yourself. And right. USA Hockey must have said, well, we talked to Stan Bowman about it. This is what he told us. And the Olympic committee must have, USOC must have felt pretty good about it, or to just reject the request for him to step down.
Russ, what did you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what Kevin said, there was definitely some surprise, but then there's also that I'm not surprised. Like I was split 50-50 on that. And that's, basically, I think the issue with something like this, I think if it were more definite, like Kevin said, if it was a case that was already decided, I think the decision would have been a lot easier. I just don't know what happens if the case gets decided before they go to the Olympics. That would be the interesting thing to see what would happen then. Like if this happens in December, what happens?
Well, if it comes out that if he comes out, if he's guilty in anything involving this, I'm sure something will happen. But
that's what we have to get.
Well, yeah. From the practical application, though, I mean, they can function without a general manager. I mean, they have a de facto a backup general manager in John Van Beesbrook, who's runs the national team's programs,
right?
And he in the old days that would have been the general manager, but they decided with the NHL players, they wanted an NHL general manager, but they could easily slide. And once the team's named, the general manager is just over there, to be the head. But it could easily.
I know he's new, but I was kind of surprised that Bill Zito wasn't asked to do anything with this. Like, and he has where he did pick he was the GM of the World Championship team a couple times for the U.S. team in the World Championships.
Yeah, it's not surprising when you look at their history, the way they do things, like they move it around. He did the World Championships. Stan Bowman hasn't gotten anything. And
that's true.
And he'd been around for a while. Like they're pretty careful about trying to be inclusive and give everybody a shot.
Yeah. Are they going to keep that? They used to have such a powerful group of GM. Are they going to,
they still have that. Yeah.
That group is still there, right?
Yeah. They still have the committee. Yeah.
But if you look at it, I mean, Bowman's won 3 Stanley Cups and Mike.
For sure. No, I did not know that Bowman hadn't done it before. I wasn't sure about that.
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. They move it around. Yeah. Like, Blashill didn't, they gave Blashill like back to back. I think it was back to back. Or was it 2 out of 3? I forget. But anyway, he had 2 chances at the World Championship, but he got a medal. So, people thought maybe he'd make the Olympic, but they didn't because, he had done it recently and they moved it around a little bit.
The other story briefly was the move of John Ferguson Jr. from Boston to the Arizona Coyotes as assistant general manager, which, I mean, I guess is reflective of the fact that maybe, his aspirations, I think, are still to become a general manager in this league. I think obviously Don Sweeney was not going anywhere in Boston. Maybe he thinks that his road to getting back to where he was with the Leafs back over a decade ago would be clearer, or he'd have more power in Arizona under Bill Armstrong. But Russ, I mean, about Ferguson. Maybe he's mislabeled as, or how should I say it? He's been tarnished too much by what happened with the Leafs over a decade ago as general manager. He's been a good assistant everywhere he's been, so maybe this is a good move.
Yes, I mean, I've seen him road scouting. I've seen him in a lot of different places. He's done a good job. It's just, I guess, when you don't do a good job for the belief that you can't do a good job overall. But I feel like he's done a good job every other place.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good hockey guy. Good hockey DNA. That's obviously John Ferguson's son. But to me, if you said to me, where is the one team if you want to go from assistant GM to GM, you'd want to go to a team where there's upheaval, where there's constant change. Like Arizona is my choice.
Right.
Go there. God knows what could happen there, and you could certainly end up who knows what could happen there.
Well, make sure that your lease is only 1 year in Arizona. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to Team Finland. And the first question I have for you guys is this: I put together a team of 12 forwards, 6 defensemen, 3 goalies.
Sure.
So that's what is that? So that's 12, 8, that's 21. Anyone care to venture how many vowels are in this lineup? I counted them just now. So how many vowels are in the lineup of my 21 players? What do you think?
I'm not venturing.
No, I refuse to guess.
Kevin, what do you think? And,
I don't know. Yeah,
okay,
I'm not.
I know it's
I'm
ridiculous,
not playing this
but,
game.
the chat room can throw in their guesses if they want to. But yeah, so I went through, there's a lot of vowels in Finnish names. And there's some guys who, like that don't even have a lot. But I'll give you this much. The average was there were 121 vowels on this team and out of 21 players. So that equals
Aho has the least. I'll say that.
Yeah, he does. That actually works out to about 6 vowels per player, 5.5 vowels per player. That's pretty amazing. When you think about it. Anyway, just letting you know. There you have it.
Yeah, Taravainen's got a few.
Thanks for that, Ak.
Tuckaniemi, that's a lot.
Well, if I could have $10 for every K in a name, in a Finnish name, then I consider that a pretty good bounty. But okay,
there's 10 in just very Tuckaniemi. 10 vowels. All right, okay, let's move on. So the forward top line.
Well, first of all, let's just say, before we get going on this, like Finland could win this. Finland is a really, really good team, and especially when you look down the middle at them with Barkov, one of the Brust's top two-way centers. How would you view that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, top 2.
Well, Kevin, they're much stronger up the middle than the Russians are. We were talking
not even close. And we, like Rupe Hintz, you forget about him.
He's terrific.
I just looked at their group, and that's the thing that struck me is how strong they were, up the middle. 4 lines of good scoring centers. There's a lot going on there.
Oh yeah, there's so many, and Barkov obviously has to be your number 1 center. Although Aho is, Sebastian Aho is a great player too. So.
Well, it's probably just 2 scoring lines is how you view that. So
yeah. So first line for me was Barkov, Line A, and Rantanen.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether that makes any sense to people. And Line A, is obviously has been struggling. It'll be very interesting to see what he does in this tournament. Like if he comes back and suddenly plays out of his mind, that's going to be very, very weird.
Even if he doesn't, he'll make this team.
He'll make the team for sure. That's my first line. My second line is it gets harder right away, but Sebastian Aho, Taravainen, and Kakko. That was who I went with my second line. I think
that's pretty much what it'll be. I mean,
I don't know where Kako is though.
That's what I'm going to say. You could make the argument you would move Kako down if he starts.
Yeah, you could. You definitely could. I mean, my right wings, so the two right wings I have below him are Kasperi Kapanen and Jesse Pujärvi. So like those two that I have below him are, other people have different players in there maybe, but I thought of, I think I would put him. I mean, I like Kapanen, but I think of him more like a checking player. I don't know. Like
he's a good third line guy and a penalty killer with his speed. I think you get in trouble putting him in the top 6. He had trouble with the Leafs going in the top 6.
Yeah. So my third line then is I put Kotkaniemi between Kapanen and Granlund. That was
Granlund's a center.
I know, but they've got abundance of centers. So to me, because I want to put Anton.
But I don't know. I don't think they'll move him off center. He's
experienced.
I have to agree with you.
All right, well, maybe they don't. I mean, because my thinking, I'm putting my final line is Kivrianta, Lundell, and Pujärvi. I really think Anton Lundell makes this team, and a lot of people don't agree with that.
Yeah, I think he'll make it.
But he's a center, and just talking to people in Florida, they're telling me, off the bat that he might be their second best player beyond Barkov right away, and that's kind of crazy.
Guys that you didn't mention. I mean, as Kevin said, Rupe Hintz from Dallas. Don Sway is a veteran guy.
Yep.
Puljujarvi, if he has a big year with the Oilers.
He's my fourth line. Yeah, I have him on.
Tolvanen possibly. Eric Haula possibly. Kako, Russ.
I think Haula will play on the fourth line. They're going to want his experience.
I think Haula's a good fourth liner.
Joe Armia, who's a size, fast and big player with speed. And you also, I think he's pretty much past it. But internationally, Finland has chosen Leo Komarov for almost every team the last 4 or 5 years. I think he's pretty much done, but it's possible.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to choose him this time.
Arturi Lehkonen is another one.
Yeah, I mean, I would maybe go with Haula instead of Pujärvi. I would. When I think about it, the more I think about it, Haula definitely does probably deserve to be on this team. And you're right with the experience; he's there. In general, I mean, the 4 pretty good lines. I mean, do you guys think Kiviranta will be there?
He's borderline.
Yeah, he's borderline for me too. Yeah, but I think it's going to be one of those things where the first 2 months of the season will determine their bottom, 4 or 5 guys. Yeah,
I could agree with that. Defensively, they're pretty solid defensively as well. They're not as solid as they are offensively.
They're just not very deep.
They're not very deep. Yeah, exactly. For me, it's Lindell and Heiskanen are the top pairing.
Ristolainen
and who do you have? Who's the one?
Ristolainen and Yoki. I think Jokiharju makes it.
Huh.
Because he's young, and young has a lot of speed, and then it's really. I mean, you've got. Sorry.
Yeah.
You've got Hakanpää. There we go.
I gotta mute Kevin for a second there.
No, you've got a lot of younger defensemen who they might.
I don't think Hakanpää will make it.
Well, he's a shutdown guy. He's a big shutdown guy. So, I mean, you have Valimaki, you have Jokiharju.
Valimaki will make it.
I mean, Olli Mata could make it, but he's really not been that.
To me, I mean, you're not my. So I have Vatanen, Ristolainen.
Well, Vatanen has dropped off the face of the
planet.
Yeah, but I think with them, he still holds a lot of just talking to. I did talk to one of my people from Finland to try to make this list to see what they said to Vatanen. They thought Vatanen would have a chance because he really did. He really is like somebody that they love. Like he's one of those players that they've been playing for them forever.
I think look at him,
and then there's Ville Heinola, and Marcus.
I think there's a better chance that Hakanpää makes the team than Mata does.
Yeah, I do too.
Yes,
but I also think Marcus Nudavara is a good possibility too.
Yeah, Nudavara probably makes it. I think
talking to people.
I think, and again, how many of those guys do you want? That's why I don't think Hakanpää will. I'll tell you a guy they'll scout whether he looks good this year or not, but he started to look better last year was Ole Levy. You can never take him out completely.
Right. Well, he's finally going to get a chance in Vancouver, Russ.
Right. So he's going to get scouted by them to see because you never know.
Yeah, yeah. And then when I talked to my guy about goalies, he, I said, well, you obviously have Korpisalo and Saros, are two that come right to mind. And he said to me, don't rule out Tuukka Rask. He said, honestly, he said that that's something that,
he's healthy.
That's not enough time.
Yeah.
If he's not coming back till December and then you're going to play in February.
But he is so much better than, he is so much your best goalie in Finland.
Yeah.
Like if you have a chance, like he is your Carey Price of Finland.
Yeah, but it's 5 weeks. So
right. And see this. I think Saros and Korpisalo will be two of the three. The question is who the third will be, and if Rask isn't healthy, then it falls to Kevin Lankinen, Kaapo Kakkonen from the Wild, or God forbid, Mikko Koskinen. And I would do everything in my power to avoid choosing Mikko Koskinen.
I don't know.
And maybe Antti Ranta, but by that time, Antti Ranta will be injured like he is every year.
Well,
the other question is will Tuukka Rask want to do it?
Right.
Well, it might be something that he really, that is a big question, obviously, because he said he only wants to play for Boston, right? Or nobody. And he said that pretty clearly. If Boston doesn't bring him in.
Well, that's in the NHL. That doesn't mean he's played for them internationally. So.
Right. So to me, with the person I talked to said it wouldn't be out of the question that he really does become this does become his goal, to be back for this Olympic team. That they want to come back and be, on this Olympic team, show what he's got to everybody, and really make it.
Although if you're Boston, how do you feel about that? You're hoping this guy is rehabbing to get back. He says he'll be, and the projection is December. So what does that mean? December 15th or December 1st? If it's December 1st, then it's 2 months. That's a little better. But if it's 15th, now you're thinking, and then you're going to have the holiday break, and then do you really want him to play, a bunch of meaningful games? I don't know. Boston still views themselves as a contender. I think that'll be a hard conversation.
Well, do you think they even sign him? That's the big thing.
They're going to sign him.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because they can send Swayman down to Providence.
Yeah.
And not lose them and sign Rask. And then they have Rask and Ullmark. That's, if not, if Swayman is playing really well, then, and Boston says, well, thanks for the memories, Tuukka, then he retires.
Yeah. Yeah. But if he does, he could do this before he retires, if he's getting him, the only thing I would say about Rask is he has been, he's been iffy for the Olympic team in weird ways, he's had injuries and different things like that. He's missed games. But I don't think they're any of his fault. But there definitely is a thing about him. When I talk to the Finnish guys, we're a little bit worried about his stability.
But this is the reality for Finland now. They don't have Pekka Rinne to fall back on, and now they don't have Rask to fall back on after this tournament. This is the future. That is the future for Finland. Jussi Saros in goal. I
think it's Korpisalo. I really do. I think Korpisalo is the better of those goalies. I like Saros, but I just think that I don't know. His size just works against him in these types of situations.
Well, two things. One, I agree with you about that. If Tuukka Rask wants to play, that'll make all the difference in the world. If that is his goal, I think that would be. But I'm not so sure about Korpisalo. I don't even know he's going to be. I think he could end up the backup there.
Right. He's going to. And if you look, I will grant you that stats for 1 year are not determinative in terms of, who's the better of the two. But when Jussi Saros has a .927 save percentage and a goals against of 2.28, and Korpisalo is .894 and a 3.30, to me it sounds like, okay, if I'm going with Saros if I'm Finland.
There's such different teams in front of him. That's the big thing. In that situation,
But he wasn't impressive though last year.
No, he wasn't impressive for sure. He wasn't. I agree with you there.
He was fantastic in the playoffs in the bubble. I know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic there, and that's a pressure type situation, And to me, if I'm Finland, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at Saros has not been great in pressure situations so far. Like Saros, when he has had the big games on the line, hasn't been the best. So to me, but it is definitely a changeover, and something that Finland has never had to worry about really for a long time. Like you say, for a very long time now, they gold. now they could be. Now they really could be.
Mhm.
And I don't know which way it's going to go. I really don't. But so is this Kevin? You think this team could win it?
I think they're quite capable. Like I think they're the real wild card here. Like to me, Sweden's good every tournament. They're there. We all know they're there. But Finland, just because of their strength at center, but a lot depends on their younger players. Capo, how good is he going to be? Tolvanen. Will he step up? If their younger players are any good, I think they've got a real shot, and their goaltending will have to play well. None of their goalies have a international pedigree.
Right.
If you take Rask out of the equation, like you don't look at any of those guys and you're going Saros, I don't know, Corpusal, I don't know.
Right.
If Rask was playing, you say, well, he'll be solid. Yeah, at the very worst. So.
Yeah, I mean, and what is interesting about their young players that they have is that their young players like Kakko, like Lundell, have had like enormous, and even if you want to go stretch it out to like Line A, have had enormous games for Team Finland. Like these are guys who have really been like just ridiculously good for that when wearing that sweater. Like they are. I mean, Kakko and Lundell, particularly in recent memory, you just look at them as they're just absolute superstars in tournaments. They both completely carry the team. And this team always is good because they do grow up all playing the same style, the same system. When they bring a national team together, it's the easiest national team I always hear to bring together because they all know what their role is right away.
Don't you think though that Ek and Russ Kakko has been kind of slow in the development? Like I thought I thought he would be better by now. Like I'm not giving up.
He's not developed.
He just hasn't really been. I mean, obviously Tolvanen's in the same boat. Like I saw him at the Olympics. I thought he was going to come across the pond and step right into the lineup and be a scorer in the NHL, and he hasn't done it. So.
No, he has, and he's been up and down so much with Nashville. It's crazy. And you keep thinking he's up for good now. He's up for good, and then they sending him back. The Predators all the time. It's been the case. I do agree. I just like I said before, the stuff I've heard about Anton Lundell, just what Florida feels about him is just the crazy high on him. I mean, it's just to the point
I'm
where
not shocked. I mean, they should be.
Yeah, they consider that they made some big picks up with getting Reinhardt and things like that in the summer, but they think Lundell is their biggest pickup. And they really are fired up about that. So we'll see.
Well, I don't know if they would. They'll never say that publicly. No way. They don't want to put that pressure on.
Yeah.
No, they won't. But that's definitely the feeling around that team.
Right. I mean, they're optimistic about him. He's a great prospect. Yeah, but what they'll probably do, unless he has an unbelievable camp, is start him off in the American Hockey League. And if he lights it up the first month or two, then they call him up. But I think they have to make sure they tamp down the expectations. Like, he's a call.
They have a lot of centers. They still have a lot of centers there. That's the
right.
issue.
Well, they definitely do. They have
options.
They have options for sure. And I don't think they will. I think there's a good chance he will, spend some time in the minors too. But there's also a good chance he won't. I think
he's starting with the team.
I do too.
That's just a guess, a hunch, but
that's mine too. It's my hunch too.
He's a good player.
And somebody's got to move to the wing.
They just feel like he's ahead of progress with his development. When they put him out on the ice with other players, that's what they have. They just say that he just lights it up with NHLer in the ice. So it's just one of those things.
I'm not shocked. I mean, he had 20-something goals last year over in Finland. I mean, he has a great shot. He's already good defensively. He's already good on faceoffs. Yeah. So it really is just a matter of who's he going to replace at center. Like that would be
historically, we've started younger players on the wing just to get them into the lineup and ease them in and take the pressure off.
You wouldn't have to do that with, though. You wouldn't have to do that with him.
So, no, but what I'm saying is if you don't have room, you could just start him out on the left wing.
Yeah.
And then, as he plays himself in, he gets more accustomed, and you make a move, somebody gets injured, then you move him back to center.
Yeah. I agree with that.
If you have to go, we have a couple.
I do have to go. You guys can take it. I'm sorry about that. I have an issue where I have to pick up my son or something. So I appreciate it. Sorry, guys. But thanks, everyone. And remember, it is not May. I'll talk to you guys later. Okay.
All right. A couple things here. The last Bruce Garriock reports that the last offer by the Ottawa Senators to Brady Tkachuk, which hasn't changed because based on the reports that I heard 2 months ago, they offered Brady Tkachuk the same deal as Thomas Chabot, which is 8 years, $64 million. So Garriock is reporting that that's the standing offer here, and
he's not going to make it to camp.
No, and that's the thing, Kevin. If that was the offer 2 months ago, and then it came out, and I can't remember where it came out. Oh no, Sean Simpson from TSN said that as things stood right now, Brady Tkachuk was not coming to camp without a contract. If that contract has been on the table for 2 months, then he's not signing it. Then he doesn't want to sign an 8-year deal for $64 million. He wants either more or he wants a shorter deal. So. This is a staring contest. I mean, what do you think of this situation?
Or he wants out, one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I mean, it's too strong to say he wants out. Maybe he just wants to go to a different team. I don't know. But, he's saying all the right things that he wants to stay there. Well, $64 million is a very popular number right about now. It seems like, all the contracts are in the $60 million range, and that's become more important than the average salary is what's your total package. So, that's a real reasonable offer for a player of his ilk. But, at that point, what's the difference between 8 and 8.5? If 8.5, I mean, I don't know what'll get it done, but, I would try to get it done. Speaking of these restricted free agents, you know how I feel about offer sheets. They don't work. Right. But if there ever was a time where I might wake one, look at the New Jersey Devils. Like, why wouldn't you go to the Vancouver Canucks? They have $12 million left and offer Quinn Hughes $10 million. And now they would be in an off, like if they match that, and maybe they would, now they've got to sign Pettersson and they've only got $2 million left. Like, that puts them in an awful hole.
They could do that. They would also probably cause turmoil within the Hughes family. I don't know if they want to do that though.
Why would that cause turmoil? I think the Hughes family would be happy about it, wouldn't they?
Well, how do we know that Quinn really wants to go and play in New Jersey?
Well, we'll know whether or not he signs it or not.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want to go there, he won't sign it.
Fair.
The only way it causes turmoil in the Hughes family, Russ, is if Jack is going to be prevented from getting a big contract because Quinn signed.
That's another thing. Yeah.
So, I mean, but Jack really hasn't put up the numbers to be able to demand a big contract yet. So
no, not yet. No.
And do you really want, if say just continue this narrative here, if they did offer that, then they'd have a $10 million defenseman in Quinn Hughes, a $9 million defenseman in PK, and a $9 million defenseman in Dougie Hamilton.
PK's contract will be gone at the end of this year.
Yes, it will.
And I would rather have Quinn Hughes at $10 million than Subban at $9 million.
I agree.
Yeah, but all the number ones you're giving up, you got to think about that.
Well, what are you really giving up? If you go $10 million, it's 2 firsts. Now you're replacing that first with Quinn Hughes, so you're really giving up just 1 first. Okay, and you're giving up a second and a third. If you want, I'll haul out the statistics of what the percentage of those second, third rounders that make it. I think it's when you play poker, you play cards, you take calculated risk. I think this would be a great calculated risk for them to take Quinn Hughes.
The only thing is, okay, the only argument I would give you, and I'm not going to give you much of one, but if they don't have a good year and they're in the Shane Wright sweepstakes,
yes,
and you gave that up, then we're talking about something monumental, Kev.
Well, yeah, they might be in the sweepstakes, but what's the odds of winning? I mean, the best chance they'll have of winning is, you got to take the sure thing,
And just
Quinn Hughes is a lottery pick too.
But here's all right, but they could do something from the back end, meaning if Quinn Hughes really wants to go to New Jersey, he could just keep pushing for a bridge deal and eventually get to New Jersey.
Well, yeah, but it'll be a while.
It'll be 4 years at least.
Well, I mean, I thought you were going to put the actual good argument for it. If there is a good argument, and that is the Devils simply aren't close enough. Why get Quinn Hughes when we're still a while away? And that's a really good argument.
And you also have to make the argument that Dougie Hamilton isn't exactly Rod Langway. in the sense that he's an offensive defenseman, not exactly a great defensive defenseman. And Quinn Hughes is not bad defensively, but do you want to pay $19 million to two mostly offensive defensemen?
Yeah, no, I know you don't, but I might. Yeah.
Right.
I think there's some validity to what you're saying. I mean, but I also know if you're New Jersey, you're trying to sell tickets, having three Hughes boys, playing as a novelty. That becomes your identity. Those Hughes boys got friends. You're recruiting, free agents, that kind of thing. So I don't know. It's something I'm not even sure I would do it. I'd have to think about it. But
the other thing I want to mention is, somebody in the chat room, Marco says that Quinn plays like Ghost. Ghost never had Quinn numbers. He's got 94 points in 120 games.
His rookie year,
and that's not even full seasons. And that's not even full season.
His rookie year he did, but after that, no.
Ghost had no ability really to play defensively, and Quinn Hughes does. He's such a smart player, and he'll eventually be a very strong. Like he'll end up playing defense like Rafalski. If you remember squeezing the guy out along the boards and those kind of things. That's what he'll do.
Yeah.
And
just to go back to Ottawa for a second, I continue to believe that the reason that they're going to try to hold the line on Tkachuk is because they're going to have to pay Stützle in a year or 2 years, and that could be just as much as Tkachuk. And do they want to go down? That's going down the Toronto Maple Leafs road of paying big money to young players before they've won anything, and you occupy 35, 40, 45% of your cap on 2 or 3 forwards. They've already paid Batherson. Now they're going to pay Tkachuk, and then Norris and also Stützle. So
yeah, but whether they give Tkachuk $8 million or $9 million or 8.5 or whatever, they're still going to have to pay Stützle. If they give him $5 million, they're still going to have to pay him $8 million.
Right.
Like that. Yeah. Those guys know what their value is. So eventually, I can't. Yeah, 64 million is a lot of money. So there must be something going on there.
I know one thing. I would take it. Yeah. Now, I didn't know.
Nobody will offer that to you, Mike.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you. I didn't realize this, but according to a report here, Gary Bettman's contract expires after this season, after the 21-22 season. And I haven't heard any indications that he is ready to retire. But there were some indications going back a few years that after he got the new CBA in place, that there would be a better chance that he would end it. Kev, what do you think of that? And if so, do you think Bill Daly is the likely?
Yes, I think he is the thing, but I think Gary Bettman's going to get a contract extension until he's 75 years old. Like I think his goal is to surpass
David Stern.
David Stern, yeah. He's still in relatively good health as far as I know, and I think the owners still have a lot of belief in his ability to get things done. He's very buttoned up in his approach. I know the fans don't like him. He doesn't have mass appeal, but what commissioner does? That just comes
That's
with
true.
the turf. That just comes with the turf.
Rob Manfred and Goodell are extremely popular, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this. I think Bettman has mass appeal from the media standpoint, where a lot of times commissioners don't.
No, that's right. Well, and there's, it's kind of split with the media. There's a lot of media that don't like him either. But I think ownership looks at their situation, and it's funny. But when you realize what Bettman's all about, and how smart he is whenever he has to do those appeals, and he puts out the briefs on why he ruled, and you're reading that and you're going like, wow, when he starts explaining his rationale for stuff, you realize what a sharp guy is, and he really is. And he does nothing that he hasn't. It's like he's playing chess. He's thinking 5 or 6 moves ahead, and for the most part, he's done a good job of growing the sport. Just think how back where it was and how far we've come.
Yeah, and Mike, since we have Kevin on, we didn't mention a couple of days ago Fred Stanfield passing away.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Kev's run into him more than a few times.
Yeah, and the one thing I remember about that is the famous story. Milt Schmidt told it all the time, that whenever you would refer to it as the Phil Esposito trade, he would remind people it was actually the Fred Stanfield trade, because that was how the trade started, the desire to get Fred Stanfield on the team.
Yeah, we're talking about the trade from Chicago to Boston.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that was what they wanted. They wanted Fred Stanfield. They wanted him bad. They just thought that he was a winner, and that that was going to change the course of the team. And of course, Phil Esposito ended up being part of the deal, which was the bonus part.
Yeah, and I remember Fred.
That's a big deal.
I remember Fred Stanfield playing in Buffalo later in his career. He finished with the last 4 years of his career. They got him from Minnesota, and he was part of that '75 Cup final team that lost to the Flyers. So he, even as a veteran, he was still a pretty effective player. He was a veteran presence for a very young Buffalo team when they got to the Cup final. The last thing I wanted to bring up was the revealing by TNT and ESPN of their broadcast crew. I'm not going to ask, because it was set up like, oh, who's better? I mean, we're not going to do that. But I do think that it's interesting that TNT got most of their crew from NBCSN. They got Keith Jones, Kenny Albert, and Brendan Burke as the play-by-play guys, Eddie Olczyk and Darren Pang, Liam McHugh, former NBCSN host. But the analysts, Anson Carter came from NHL Network. Rick Tocchet was a coach last year. Paul Bissonnette and Wayne Gretzky, which is a bizarre combo. And then they have contributors, Jen Botterill, who did some excellent work on Hockey Night in Canada, Tariq El-Bashir, who I believe covered the Washington Capitals for the
Capitals. I know him. He's a terrific reporter, actually. He's really good.
And Jackie Redmond, who did some hosting for NHL Network. So, Kev, I think, pretty good, for them going into hockey for the first time. They made sure that they got experienced people.
Well, they did. By the way, Anson Carter was actually on NBC. He did a really nice.
That's right.
Yeah.
He did do some NHL Network stuff too. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but yeah, I like all that. And Bissonnette is a very colorful guy. I like he's kind of a wild card. We did. This was years ago. We recognized at USA Today he had such a large social media following. We got him to write a column during the playoffs, and I worked with him on it. And, he thinks outside the box. He doesn't view it in the same cliched manner that a lot of us look at the game. And so I think he'll be very, very good. And I think he's got the capabilities. He might draw Wayne out. There's some yin and yang there,
He'll be fun.
He'll be a little counterculture, I think, which is sort of what you want. So, yeah, I like all that. And I like the fact, like, all those people that they brought from NBC are all worthy. Like, Keith Jones is one of the best in the business.
Oh, Jones is great.
Yeah.
I see a lot of Keith Jones, and he's a terrific guy.
Yeah, no, he does just a great job. And Eddie Olczyk is a terrific analyst.
Yes.
He's
as
amazing.
well.
And so is Darren. I like Darren Pang a lot.
Yeah. So
Pang, I think, is still underrated, actually. For some reason, I always feel like he, if you listen to him, really gives you tremendous insight, but I don't ever feel like he gets high enough position to really tell everybody. I think, so maybe this one will be it.
And both TNT and ESPN have people who are sort of double dipping. I know Jen Botterill is still going to be doing work for Hockey Night in Canada, as is Cassie Campbell-Pascal, who's working for ESPN. But the ESPN lineup, play-by-play, is John Buccigross, Steve Levy, Sean McDonough, who I don't remember ever doing. I remember him.
Oh, he does hockey, yeah.
Yeah, he does. I know he did baseball, and I know he did football. I didn't know he did hockey. Steve Levy and Bob Wischusen.
Yeah.
Susan is he? You know, it's funny. He was like a lesser guy at FAM, but he always was a hockey guy. So that's good.
Right. Analysts Brian Boucher, Ryan Callahan, Chris Chelios, Rick DiPietro, former #1 overall pick. Ray Ferraro will probably be the main color guy in between the boards. I miss Leah Hextall. Sorry, his play-by-play. Also doing some reporting. Hillary Knight, Kevin Weeks, and AJ Malesko. So, and sorry to forget, Mark Messier and Barry Melrose.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, that's really a good group. Kevin Weeks is even though I think he's gained a lot of recognition, I think he's still underrated. He's very, very good. He's clever, and he's a bit of a wordsmith, and he has fun when he does it. And for that reason, I think he's going to sort of emerge as a star on that ESPN.
You know what's funny, Kev? Anytime I covered the Rangers, and he was, basically the backup goalie most of his time there, I would always go to him for quotes. He was always great for quotes.
He's terrific. Yeah, he does a good job. So, hey, before we get out of here, I did a piece the other day, and I ended up having some fun with it. But if you really want to feel old, I did this from the Red Wings perspective, but it's been 50 years since Marcel Dion played his rookie season in the NHL. 50 years. And he's 70 years old now, which is really shocking. And you'll, as a Buffalo guy, you'll appreciate this. The famed Danny Gare, Schoenfeld, Sauvé, Derek Smith from a Court Foligno Peterson trade was 40 years ago.
Yeah, 1981.
40 years ago.
Yeah, so. and that trade shook the rafters in Buffalo because
shook the rafters in Detroit too. Let me tell you.
And the weird thing, Kevin, maybe I'm sure you probably know the weird thing about that deal, because that was a deal orchestrated by Scotty Bowman. Because Bowman, he took the Punch Imlach leftover team from the late 70s, got them to a conference final against the Islanders. They lost in the semifinal. Excuse me, they lost, and then Scotty wanted to make the team in his own image, so he traded the core group, the captain of Schoenfeld and Gare to Detroit in that deal. Bob Sauvé was part of the deal. He went to Detroit, and then the next year he ended up back in Buffalo, and this was before unrestricted free agency. So we never really knew how he ended up getting back to Buffalo.
Yeah, no, I don't know the answer to that either, but I remember that happened. But that was a big trade because, McCourt and Foligno and Peterson were all, the young heart of the team. They had just been drafted, and the fans were kind of getting used to them, and they got back older players. So
McCourt was a former #1 overall pick. Foligno, top 5 pick. I think he was he Russ? Was he one of the young Birmingham Bowl players? Was he one of the?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, no. Okay.
I don't know.
No, that 78 draft was the draft where everybody was coming out of the WHA. I thought he might have been, but Foligno was a great Sabre for a number of years. But all right, that does make me feel old. Thanks, Kev. Thanks a lot. I need to feel older. For the departed Eklund, for Kevin Allen, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.